Welcome, everybody. It's Monday. It's Monday again, and this is Makers Monday, and I am Patrick Kofi Yawson, and I'm super glad today we are talking about making about stuff that I really, really like. And James is here, of course. And James, what's up, man?
It's Monday. I'm excited too. One, I get to talk to you, and I get to talk to an awesome guest. Again, I'm down here at the Makerspace, at Matchbox Makerspace. We're downtown Lafayette, Indiana. And every other Monday, we do a Maker Monday. And tonight, you and I get to talk to Chris of People's Brewery, and he's the owner, president, and brewmaster. And I'll let him tell you all about what he does.
Hey, how we doing? I'm Chris Johnson, and I do just about anything that needs to be done at People's Brewing Company. So you name it. Everything from making beer to fixing toilets.
Making beer to fixing toilets. There,
yes.
All there. That's called being an owner, I think.
Yeah, I think that's called being
Yeah.
That's what the guy in the parking lot picking up trash, you call the owner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're that person. So
that's so true.
How long have you been doing this, Chris?
Commercially, I've been brewing for 22 years this May.
And how long has People's been around?
We will be 13 years this December. So we're just about 12 and a half years in. So
yeah, just 12 and a half. That's all.
Yeah, only 12. Has it really been 13 years? Wow.
13 years in December. Yeah. So
man.
I started home brewing when I was at Purdue in the late 90s and really fell in love with creating beer and making different flavors and things. And then I started as an apprentice at Lafayette Brewing Company in May of 2000. I believe it was May. I always tell people May.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, he knows what month? I have no idea when I started anywhere. Yeah, so you've been doing this for a very long time, and then what I don't think people that may or may not know, you've been, you started off relatively small, I feel like, and then I feel like every year I just hear about news of People's just growing bigger and bigger, and there's like crazy stuff you're coming out with. How many I guess different kinds of brew do you have now? Do you know?
We do a schedule of about 30 to 35 beers a year. So we put out 8 all the time. And then we do, we've got a scheduled 13 to 14 seasonals. And then we're always playing around with something, trying small batches of this or that, doing some barrel aging, or we've done some sours and barrels. We've always got something in the works. So.
Yeah, so always making new things, and always learning, I guess, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the fun of it is creating something new and getting it out and letting people try it. So trying it ourselves.
So speaking of new, I guess it's not super new anymore, but the whole Purdue Beer, like you have the Purdue Beer, right? How'd that come about?
Well, from the get-go, we saw the university as a huge resource to learn and do projects and work with them. And so we've had everything from materials handling projects and projects in Cranert and marketing, lots of stuff in food science that we've done. We've worked with different parts of agronomy and ag. We've done some malting projects and just all kinds of different things. So we started doing that right from the get-go. And that blossomed into a relationship directly with food science. And every other year I do a lecture for fermentation sciences on brewing there. And we basically, I got asked to come in and talk to with food science and the student union when they did the 1869 tap room. And during that project, with just a whole bunch of people at the same table kind of coming up with ideas and what that could be and how they could make it educational and relaxing and kind of hit all these different aspects they were looking for, we kept joking about having a Purdue beer. How cool would it be if there was a Purdue beer? And And that sparked the interest of some people over on campus. And it was about almost a year later, we finally kind of figured out how to do it, changed a little bit of policies to allow that to happen. We checked kind of all the things that could go wrong with it and made sure that we had that kind of figured out. And it's really blossomed into a pretty cool thing. You know, we've got Boiler Gold and Boiler Black. We released Boiler Black a year after Gold, and I think that was 18 that we released those, maybe somewhere in there. And so we've got Purdue Beers at football and basketball games, baseball, you know, all over the state from south of Indianapolis up into Chicago. So yeah, it's really cool. I've been a Purdue fan my whole life. My whole family is Purdue, are Purdue people. And so it's really cool to have that relationship with the university and work on that project. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much awesome. And just even with that, like you started talking about the science of brewing and making beer. Like, could you explain to us layman's what really does it take to like make beer? Like, what is really the process?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. They're all the way from the artistic side through to the science. At the end of the day, the science is always there. You know, so we always talk about time and temperature and creating the environment. So when we make beer, we put our recipe together, but then we create the environment in the mash tun to get the enzymes to convert the sugars the way we want. And then we create the environment in the kettle for the hops to break down into the bitterness and the flavors and aromas of the beer. And then again, in the fermentation, we create the environment so that the yeast, which is a living organism, can then thrive and eat the sugars and create the alcohol and the CO2 and its esters and things that it puts off. So all of those different stages of the brew, there's science that goes into creating the conditions that get you a particular flavor out of that step. So if we adjust the temperature in our mash tun, which is basically the water and the malted barley or cereal grains, we can get those enzymes to create different sugars. So we can create non-fermentable sugars or fermentable sugars, and we can add more body or we can make it lighter. And then every step, there's that environment that you create for the art. You know, you take an artistic approach, but then you have to know how to manipulate the batch to get the final product that you want.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, and literally the consistency, like I've had some of your beers for years and I know, that's exactly what it's going to taste like. And I understand that's how beer works, right? As you're not feel free, but I wish I had a beer right now too.
Yeah,
I'm drinking tea currently. I'm like, man, he's talking about beer. I need one of these.
Yeah, a farmer's daughter would be great right now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like Farmer's Daughter and just so many of these that I like know exactly what they're going to taste like. I know what I'm going to get. And even some of your seasonal stuff, which Space Cowboy is always one of my favorites. I can tell it's that every time. I just, how do you make sure that you have the consistency? I mean, because the hops and everything matter, but wouldn't they change a bit? And yeah, how's that work?
They do change. They, you know, we use barley and hops. And those are grown, so the growing conditions, the environment that they're grown in will affect how they turn out. So we have to take those things into account. Basically, being able to reproduce the same product over and over is note-taking, again, understanding the science behind it. We, over the last, I'd say 5 years, we've developed a pretty extensive on-site lab. So we count our yeast viability and the health of the yeast. We track all those sugars I was talking about, all kinds of different things, and we're constantly looking for other ways that we can make the beer more consistent, more better, make it better, you know, and it really comes down to really good note taking and tracking what we have done, and then looking at that data and saying, what can we do that will create a better product? You know, a lot of times it's process. You know, we find a better way to do the process. We also look at that in a conservation manner too. So, you know, is there a way that we can use less water or less CO2 and still keep a good, you know, quality product? So there's lots of different things that we look at when we're working on it, but those are watching what we did, learning from it, and using that information going forward is how we continue to drive quality and consistency. You know, and that's, like I said, adding the lab has been key. So we have a lab tech that works about 20 to 30 hours a week, and all she does is track things to make sure that what all of the different things that we're looking at are where we want them to be. So,
yep. So, quick question though: does lab tech? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Does the lab tech also get to help taste test the beer? Because I feel like once you've done it, right, you've made the first batch or whatever, you got to make sure that somebody's testing it. So is that like everybody there? Is there a certain person who's like, yo, I got you, I've got like the golden palate? How's that work?
So we taste everything throughout the process. So our brewers are tasting the wort and smelling and looking at it and making note if something has changed. And then our process basically starts with our brewer. He brews the batch of beer, and then he puts it in a fermenter that is prepared by our cellarman. The cellarman will put the yeast in based on what our lab tech says we need from that particular batch of yeast. And then during the fermentation, the lab tech is basically monitoring the beer. So the brewer is kind of done with his part of it, or her part of it. At this point, it's a him. But and then our lab tech takes over. She basically takes it through and she gives it a stamp of approval and says, "Hey, cellarman, we're good to go." And then it gets scheduled for processing. So the tanks right here, these two tanks, those are finishing tanks. So bright tanks. So the beer will go in there and we'll get it cleaned up, get the yeast out of it. We can add carbonation at that point, and then it's ready for kegging or canning. We also have a full-time operations manager, and she schedules all that stuff. So making sure that the right people are in the right place and all the ingredients that we need are where they need to be when we need to make moves. So that team of people is basically our production staff. We have a production meeting every week. Tuesday morning, I'll be here at 9 a.m. for production meeting tomorrow. When that meeting, and we kind of go through what we're doing this week, what maintenance things we have to do, ingredients that are coming and going. Right now, you know, sometimes it's something that we are waiting on because we can't get it in, or it's delayed, or maybe it's already here. But so we talk through all those things that everybody needs to know what's going on with the other parts of production. And then at the end of that, we have developed a really extensive shelf-stable sensory program. So our lab tech will have pulled the samples that we're doing for the day. We do a couple of 1.5 ounce samples, and we do a sensory on it. And basically every batch that we can, every time we can, so even if we can the same batch of beer over 3 days, we keep a 6-pack, and it goes through, half of that goes into warm stability testing, and the other half goes into cold. And we will keep some of that beer for 2 years. So at Kofi, if you buy a Farmer's Daughter and you put it in your duffel bag and forget about it, and then you open the thing up and it doesn't taste right, and you call me and you say, "Hey man, this beer didn't taste right," I can pull beer that was held warm and cold from that same batch, and we can see if we had the same problem in our scenario, or if you left it in your back room in the sun and that's what did it, you know. So
wow.
So we keep a catalog, and we do extensive sensory testing. So, if 3 months from now the beer that we can today doesn't taste good, we can go out in the market and try to get it back in. So, and those are all the things that kind of, again, just kind of drive that quality. This last summer we went to a Best By date instead of a Born On date, because we've done enough of that testing. We have a good idea. Our Best By dates are based on warm shelf. So if you see one of our cans and you see a Best By on it, that's based on sitting warm. So, if it's sitting warm at Village Bottle Shop, it may have just been brought out of our distributor's cooler that week or 2 weeks ago. But that if it's sat there warm for 3 months, it should be fine. We expect it to be fine. So, yeah, we've kind of, quality is such an important part of what we do. And so we want to stand behind the quality of our products. So we've done a lot of things to do that. But yes, every Tuesday morning we do a few samples. That was a long answer coming all the way back around to who tries the beer. We all do. So
no, that's very cool. We've talked to a few like brewers on the show that were doing it by themselves. And you're the first person that we've talked to that has that entire process and all the different people. And it's super, it's cool to hear where you're at, right? Where, a lot of people brew beer and they'll do it all by themselves, I guess. And they're doing like 1 or 2 kegs, here at a time. You're doing it. How much do you produce each like day or whatever week, whatever measurement you have for it?
We going in the last couple of years have been a little weird, but we do around 3,000 to 4,000 barrels a year. So that's like a barrel is 2 half barrels or 2 standard kegs. So we do the equivalent of about 8,000 kegs of beer a year. Wow. And that's between kegs and cans and pints at the bar and everything. So.
Yeah. So along with that, then you have to come up with names and logos and all the cool creative stuff too that I really want to talk about as well. So who names it? I mean, you're the owner. Do you feel like you get to name all the things, or do you have like a committee of naming how do you come up with your names for your brews?
So we've got a communication board up in our hallway, and on one side of the room or on one side of the hallway, there's what's going on for the next 2 weeks, dry erase board of all the tanks and what's here and there and what's been done. And on the other side, we have kind of a communication board, and a part of that, about a quarter of it, is beer name ideas. And so anytime somebody comes up with an idea that they think might be a good beer name, they write it up on the board. About once a month, I erase all the ones that we're either never going to use or a little too, out
risque.
there. Risque. Name for it. And then every once in a while, one will get circled or moved to kind of a spot on the board where it hangs out. So sometimes we come up with a name before we've ever even come up with a beer. More often than not, we're developing some sort of beer. Somebody has taken a trip down to Indy and they had a beer while they were out, and they were like, oh, everybody's got to try this. And a lot of times beers come rolling back in. Somebody will go on vacation. They're like, this beer was fantastic. And so we'll start getting our wheels turning, and we talk about different things that we want to do. I mean, it's really a team effort here. We have a fantastic, not only production team, but our whole staff is fantastic. But our creative kind of comes in from all angles, and we want everybody to be involved. I mean, People's Brewing Company, the whole idea was people brought together around beer. So, we do that on the back end too, and in the production. So we're always talking about things we like and fun stuff and developing new products. So, but sometimes like we're ready to tap a beer and we haven't come up with a name that we like. So, it all just depends on how things are going. Sometimes we'll find ingredients that we name beers after, or Other times it'll be something historical. And then every once in a while, it's just some fun name like Space Cowboy that, kind of comes out of nowhere. Now, that actually did derive from the hops because we used Summit, Galaxy, and Amarillo. So we were like Summit, the Galaxy, and then we were like Amarillo, it's got to be Space Cowboy. So, the names and things come from all different places.
So you also have, for people who don't know, you also have like a front like tap room. What do you call that room in like restaurant area? And like you have employees that go through there. So can you tell us about some of that side? And then I know that like every time I've been in there, it seems like everybody's having a lot of fun, both the people who are working and the people, and even back in the brewery a little bit as I've been back there, it seems like you guys are enjoying what you do. So can you tell us sort of about the atmosphere of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We started in 2009. It was late in the year, December, and we knew that we wanted to have a space at the brewery where people could come and see what we were up to and experience the product. And our first idea was to kind of have that space be like a winery. You could come in, sample beers, take some bottles, or take a growler, and then we when we opened it, we decided to go ahead and do pints and kind of see if people would come out. And we're not really like on Main Street, or we're not like a walk. You're not going to walk by and be like, oh, let's walk into People's. So we didn't really know like if people would come out and want to be out here on a regular basis. And so when we opened it, we had 6 seats at the bar, which was initially built as a tasting bar, and we had 4 tables. So we had a capacity of, I think it was 19 or 21 people, something like that. And right away, I mean, it was just shoulder to shoulder, and you couldn't move, and people were out, and the support of this community has been fantastic. And people come into town, they drop their kids off at Purdue, and they come over here and have a beer. So then in 2000, so we opened it in 2010. And then in 2013, we expanded the room and we moved the bar, and now the bar seats about 10 people. We've got 49 person capacity inside. We added a patio off of the tap room, so we've got a nice outside space that seats about 30 people. And then during 2020, because we could only do outside, we expanded that into what we call the beer garden. We've got picnic tables that go all the way back to the building, and we can seat about 60 or so people outside now. So it's grown quite a bit. And we added a kitchen in June of 2020. My wife has years of experience with food and restaurants. Her family was a part of the Trails Bank, or owned the Trails Banquet facility, and she's worked in other restaurants and stuff her whole upbringing. So she kind of handles that side of things, and she's got a fantastic sandwich and appetizer menu that we rotate with the seasons. So we got the spring menu will be coming up here this month, and everything is made fresh in house. It's all made from scratch. The sauces, the seasonings, you name it, everything's made here, and she makes some real tasty food. So yeah, it's all about people being able to get together and coming around, and enjoying a beer and enjoying each other. So
yeah, and then with the tap room, you have regulars that can come in, and then you got people coming through just to pick up growlers. I mean, I've been in there for a decent amount, and it's hopping. It's like no pun intended, actually pun intended.
Pun intended.
I make that pun. But yeah.
Well, one other thing I will say too is everyone there is super knowledgeable. Is there, for other people, for you being a master brewer, like, because I know they're in leadership and you're running a business, you're trying to make sure that people are like informed. Like, do you guys have like programs or to tell everybody how this stuff is really like, or is everyone really love beer that much? Because every time I've gone in there, there'll be beers I don't have any clue about, and I get so much detail on how they're made, why they're made, what's in them. Like, is that just natural, or is that something that you guys have like a program that you teach?
I mean, it's a big part of kind of how we train. You know, we want everybody to understand the beers and understand, you know, the process behind them and why we made the decisions we made. You know, we really, part of our whole plan was to educate people about the products as well. So we've got tons of information available to our serving staff. But you also find that the people that gravitate in to work with us and for us are tend to be into it. You know, they want to learn about it, and you know, we've had days where some of the front of the house staff will be back in the brewery and kind of seeing how things work, and you know, doing tours, and we talk. We're always talking beer. I mean, that's what we do. So you know, and then you've got these guys back here that are you know, a little nerdy about beer, and they're always up there sitting at the bar talking to each other about the, you know, how the pH was this afternoon, you know. And so there's just a lot of that going on around here, and you know, and there's a lot of people asking questions. So, you know, if somebody asks a question that our staff doesn't know the answer to, you know, they bring it back to the brewery and, you know, talk to the brewer or talk to the cellarman, or, you know, come back to the office and ask me about it. So they're constantly learning too. And yeah, I mean, that's the environment is all about beer. So, you know, we all kind of want to know a little bit more and want to be able to convey that to the customer. So, it's definitely an angle that we are really, you know, passionate about, is making sure that not only our staff is educated, but Kofi, you know what you're drinking when you come in. So, or James, you know, whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I love that atmosphere and that, like, the actual passion that people have. I feel like you did a good job of explaining that you're all about the beer and this kind of thing. I gotta ask, it just came up. I love hearing about either crazy stories or like major fails that you've had, or something like that. Do you have any, like, just story that you can tell us, like you thought something was going to go really well and it didn't, or maybe the thing behind you started leaking, or what's some wild stuff that's going on at people's brewery that you can talk about?
Well, there's always we've always got equipment maintenance type stuff going on, and you know, like right now we had a water heater issue, and we just had trouble getting a part, and you know, usually a part that usually we can call across town and pick up, but you know, so there's always stuff like that going on. You know, we're always working on stuff and wrenching. I mean, that's a big. I grew up in kind of a farming setting, so I had a little bit of, you know, that we can just fix whatever the problem is mentality. Trying to think of a particular time. If my staff was back here, they would have a laundry list of things that I tried to do that didn't work out the way I said they would. They always joke that all I need to make something work is a screwdriver, because we've got like a laundry machine that's got a screwdriver stuck in it because the button doesn't work anymore, and you know, they're always joking that he'll just stick a screwdriver in and it'll be fine, you know. So so that, I guess, that sort of qualifies. But
have you had like a beer that you guys tried to make, and for sure, and it just came out just like, what were we thinking? Has that ever happened?
Well, we've had some things happen with like equipment failures. I mean, we've had some things not turn out quite like we thought they would. Nothing super catastrophic. Years ago, we had a brewer that had been kind of brewing with me for a long time, and it was his first day brewing his own batch of beer. And he puts this Bock beer, which should ferment at like 55 to 58 degrees, in a tank, and the temperature controller failed on it. We come in the next day and it's fermenting at like 90 degrees. And, you know, I've experienced that in the past. I'm like, well, that's junk. We should just dump it. And he's like, oh no, like, we got to hold on and see if it turns out. It's my first batch, you know? And so I think we held on to that beer for, you know, we got it all through the process, kegged it up, had it in kegs for 9 months, and finally we were like, look, this is just not going to get any better than this. But that was just a piece of equipment that failed, and sometimes you catch that stuff early, sometimes you don't, and we've had those types of issues. We did have this is years ago too, but we had a tank that when we were first starting out, we overfilled it a little bit, and it basically stopped there. We do like a airlock that bubbles off the CO2 that the yeast is creating, and the beer just stopped bubbling. And so we thought, oh shoot, it's not fermenting anymore. And so we're kind of fooling around with it, and we realized that basically we clogged up the only avenue for that CO2 to release from the tank. Well, we found out because all of these tanks have pressure relief valves. So the pressure relief valve starts going off, and it's like blowing foam out of the top of the tank. And I realized we have to make some avenue for that pressure to get off the tank more than that pressure relief valve, because we're in primary fermentation. So I had to basically release the pressure relief valve completely, and we lost most of that batch of beer, but basically head to toe covered in foam and yeast. Myself, my brewer, everybody in the whole room, basically. But you learn a valuable lesson. You don't do that again.
Yeah. So question for you though: did you turn it off with a screwdriver?
Not that time. No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were going to say you punctured a hole with a screwdriver, and you were like, "Yeah, look, guys, it's just a screwdriver. That's all I need." So which brings me to my favorite question, that I have to ask you: what's your favorite tool? And you're allowed to say screwdriver, but you can say other things too, right? What's one of your favorite tools for brewing?
Screwdriver is definitely up there. I'm actually a huge fan of my electric meter when it comes to my general tools. First of all, safety. I mean, your electric meter is how you keep from getting electrocuted. But we have so many controllers and motors and different amperages and frequencies and 3-phase power and all these different things going on, that when we have issues, it seems to be the one thing that I got to have right on my side to both stay safe and to troubleshoot issues. So I'd have to say my electric meter for those reasons. I
wouldn't have guessed that. It makes a lot of sense, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, hey, the brewmaster needs you do everything, right? Like you see you're the electrician, the person fixing the washer, I guess, with the screwdriver. I love that story, by the way. I'm always going to remember it. But
to be fair, I'm not our electrician, but I do I do a lot of troubleshooting, mostly on the controller side, the 24-volt, low voltage. Once you get into the high voltage stuff, I've got guys that are professionals that do that. So we use Artisan Electric, and they do a fantastic job for us. So
yeah, and
now, we also have beer specific tools, and I would have to say my mash paddle is probably my favorite beer specific tool, because if I've got my mash paddle in my hand, that means I'm on the brew deck that day, and it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but I love it when it does.
Yeah. So do you work the front area much, or do you hang out there? I mean, it seems like you're there all the time. Tell me about your day, I guess.
I mean, most of my day is dealing with production on the level of management mostly, and troubleshooting things and talking through procedures and different stuff we're doing. No day on our production side is the same. We may be doing a little canning, or moving a beer, or moving 2 beers, not canning, you name it. There's all kinds of different configurations of what our days look like. But then I do a lot of business office side, working with our sales rep and doing distributors, and working on marketing things with both with people that help us with marketing, and some that I do myself. And so there's I've kind of got my hands in a little bit of everything, but my day usually starts in the office, and then if it's a good day, it it kind of rolls back into the brewery, and I come back here and get hands on some things. But like today, I took a truckload of beer to Indianapolis. I was supposed to meet with our sales rep and our distributor, but I didn't quite make the meeting on time. I actually met with my sales rep in the middle of the street, right underneath Circle Center Mall, and handed off some stuff to him, and kept rolling because I didn't want to have to park the brewery truck downtown. But so yeah, I mean, my day can go many different directions. But yeah, it usually starts in the office, kind of getting the whole thing rolling, and then I just go from there.
I've noticed something it's been universal as we do this show, is that every maker, no matter how big a level they get to, they still don't like doing what they're doing, even what they're doing. They all still want to go make what they're making. And that is the awesome part about this show.
We really do. And yeah, he said it like 3 times. I thought the exact same thing. Yeah.
I love those mornings when I can come in and be on the brew house. They start nice and early and nobody's here. You know, we roll in between 6 and 7 o'clock to start a brew, and there's just nothing like that. And for 22 years, it's my favorite thing to do is roll in and start a beer.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what's fun to me is that you're doing all the different things, and you just had a meeting downtown in Indy, like you said. You just made it work with the whole stopping and making it happen. When you're going through and you're the owner of a business as big as you've gotten, did you think you'd make it here? Did every once in a while you just kind of be like, hey, like, wow, like you turn around and be like, wow, this is a major operation that I have going. What did you see yourself getting here?
So I guess the best way to answer that is, you know, going into it, you've got this drive that you're destined to make yourself successful. I mean, it's like you've got the passion, and you just like you're going to do anything it takes to make it happen. You know, do I look back and say, wow, like, yeah, I do that every day? I mean, you know, I walk through this brewery and I'm just like, holy cow, this is what I was dreaming about when we started moving towards this direction. You know, and sometimes it feels like I've been doing this forever, and sometimes it feels like I just started yesterday. It just depends. But yeah, I mean, you know, we went into it. We had a plan, and we felt like that plan would be successful. You know, I was in this community for a long time, even as a brewer, and we looked at several different communities, and you know, we just felt like Lafayette was where we wanted to be, and you know, so we put a lot of effort into it, and we thought that it would be successful. You don't know where it's going to go from there. You know, it's like I never would have drawn what I have today on paper if you would have said, where will you be in 12 years? But the path just sort of, you know, kind of came together, and you know, I mean, tomorrow I'll have a decision to make that'll turn that path a little bit one way or the other. I mean, it's an everyday thing, and it's a living thing, and it's just continuing to grow. So, and you know, but you got to feed it too, and make some decisions, and you know, don't look back.
So speaking of don't looking back, I have to ask you a question. What would you, Chris Johnson of today, go back and tell Chris Johnson of, you know, any time in the past, if you had a time machine, right? You get a time machine, it doesn't actually affect anything as far as like, you're not going to cease to exist or something like that. There's no butterfly effect. But what's a good piece of advice that you would give yourself that you wish you would have known earlier?
I mean, I would say, you know, what I've learned is to take your time and, you know, really assess your decisions. And, you know, I think the younger me was a little more like jump and go kind of approach. And, you know, that worked for me, I guess, too. So it's hard to say that I would change that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would change exactly, but there's tons of things I would tell myself that are, you know, but not too many that would be all that interesting or anybody would even know what I was talking about on this show. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, for every great decision we made plenty of bad decisions, and you got to learn and remember how those things went down, and the next time, hopefully, that you make a better decision than you did the first time. But yeah, it's been nothing but learning. I mean, that's how everybody should approach life. Go at it hardcore and learn from your mistakes. I mean, that's huge.
Nice.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. Like the best way to learn is from your mistakes. Exactly what you were saying, right? You got to go into it and you got to try. So it's awesome that you've been doing this for 13 years. It's just people have been doing it for longer. Otherwise, I gotta ask other questions though, because I want to get to know you more as a person. That's kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
so go ahead.
I got the question.
Go.
I got the
go,
question.
Get the question.
All right, it's the 25th anniversary. People's Brewing Company. You're having a shindig. What band plays the 25th anniversary People's Brewery shindig?
Yeah. And money's not an option.
Money's not an option, dead or alive. It actually dead or alive, if it could be. If you can bring, because we can bring holograms now. So
yeah, we can bring holograms. We have AI. Yeah.
That is tough. Well, I mean, if you may or may not know that I'm a banjo player, and
yes, I
played with flapjacks. I'm always up for those guys playing. But I can make that happen. But we get together now from time to time, but don't play a lot of shows out. But I always like playing with those guys. Man, I don't know. That's tough. But yeah, I mean, there's so many greats that would be on my list that.
Top three.
J.D. Crow and the New South, Flat and Scruggs, and then maybe I don't know, Johnny Cash would be a good one too, just to mix it up.
There you go.
Yeah,
we could throw a festival in my head, like.
Yeah, I mean, on the 25th anniversary, you guys already throw festivals. That one's the 25th is gonna be gigantic. Right? Actually, tell us about some of the festivals you do an Oktoberfest, right?
Well, we do an event we call Fall Bash. Okay. It's a little bit later in the year. We do it the third weekend in October. And it was, it's basically, we do some music. We usually have a band or two. We get a DJ. We kind of pull from some of the local guys that spin vinyl. We do hog roast. We also have a vegetarian option. We make all the fixings. Excuse me. The ticket includes the music, the food. We do like $2 or $3 beers, like just if you're not paying for beer, it's harder to control yourself. So we do a discounted beer along with the ticket, and it's just a good time. We got the idea was to have something for our regulars, but this last year we actually had someone who had never been to the brewery that bought a Fall Bash ticket and came over and had a blast. So, she's been back several times, but yeah, it's just a fun event in the fall. This year we moved it to what we call the Hollow, which is behind Zogilla, which is our neighbor to the south. Zogilla is like designs kitchenware, functional artistic kitchenware, another maker. But he's got a really cool like grass lot behind his building, and we had a stage up there all summer, and we did some music out there about once a month, and I think we may do some more of that this year. But then we had the Fall Bash back there this year, and it was just great. We uplit the trees, and it was a beautiful night. And we ate some food and had some beers and listened to music and hung out with a bunch of great people. So.
Kofi, you and I got to go next time. Like, I've been to one, and it was super fun. It was crazy.
I've been to one too, and the hog roast was awesome.
Yes,
food. I'm all about my food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. James, when you came, I think that was in the front of the building. We used to do them up there in the front parking lot.
Yeah. It was in the front.
That's when I was there. Yeah.
last several years we've done them behind United Refrigeration, and then this year, because we already had the stage set up over in the hollow space, we did it over there. So yeah, it's always at the brewery, but it's moved around the building quite a few times. So
well, just like your actual business, it's growing too, right? Like you've said that, your outside seating's grown, your inside seating's grown, your brewery obviously has grown, and so is your bash. That makes sense, right? And live music is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, we Jim Voles of Mom and Pop Productions he's worked for us for a long time. He started out as I think he started out doing some like odds and ends in the brewery, and then he worked in the tap room for a while. And now he works a little bit in the brewery again. He'll help can or something. I think he was in here canning this morning when I was in. But he does our Tuesday nights, our People's Live stuff. He's got great connections. He brings in fantastic music. He put together our hollow shows, and we've done some People's Live stuff at Knickerbocker and the Spot Tavern, and that's all driven by Jim and Mom and Pop. If it wasn't for him, there's no way I could spend the time or be able to do the job that he does when it comes to music. So yeah, every Tuesday night we have bands in the tap room from 6 to 8. The great part about that is you can still be in bed by 9 and catch a couple of hours of live music. So as we get into the summer, we're going to do some of those outside. We're on the patio space outside. So yeah, Jim he's our entertainment coordinator. He runs all the music and that kind of stuff. We do some other events. We like to throw parking lot parties. So we do the Pedal-In Bike Show on Memorial Day weekend. It's just like a car show, but it's bicycles. And it's just a friendly event. We raise some money for, I believe we've done food finders. So it's like there's a small entry. You bring your bicycle and you set it up, and we have all these bicycles, and people go around and check them out. And then we have kind of a voting, and we do some prizes and stuff. So yeah, the Pedal-In Bike Show has been a big hit, and we do that it's a Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. We've done an event we call Bib Fest, although that should be in April. I don't know if we're going to pull it off this year. We've got a lot of things going on, kind of, coming out of the pandemic years. So I don't know if we'll get the Bib Fest pulled off, but that's all about smoking ribs and wearing bibs, and so we wear bib overalls, and we've worked with what's the name? Sandy Beach Barbecue, and they'll bring out big green eggs, and we'll have a competition to smoke some big green eggs. The sheriff participated one year, made some ribs, and sometimes we have teams. We've got some guys that come down from Michigan that have come down to make ribs, and again, it's just for fun. I mean, we just have a good time, raise a little money for charity, drink some beer. But we've done like plant sales where we've brought in some people that sell plants and set up in the parking lot. We did tie-dye parties, and we do all kinds of stuff, but we love to throw parking lot parties and get outside and enjoy the weather. And it's all about enjoying people and beer.
Yeah, definitely.
Brewery,
people's. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, yeah, you guys do a lot in the community. And also just one thing that I noticed just from around here is that, like, you guys really, the brewers in Indiana seem to be really work together a lot. Like, what is that like? Is there an actual organization? And maybe I'm missing that. Is there an actual organization of brewers in Indiana? And because Indiana seems like to be a new, really big brewing state all of a sudden.
There is an organization. It's called BIG, the Brewers of Indiana Guild, and it is an industry where we build each other up. And for us as a craft or local brewery, it's beneficial for the brewery down the road to still be making a good product. And we're introducing people to a lot of times to something that they haven't had before. And, we want to see the industry have a quality, as in the state and locally, we have a small group here locally that, basically all the brewers in town, we work together. And, if somebody needs something, we got a little Facebook group, and you say, hey, I need a bag of wheat malt today, and somebody will say, well, I've got one, or, I've got some Simcoe hops or whatever it might be. And, we help each other out that way. And every once in a while you'll get somebody that'll say, here's a problem I'm having, if anybody have any experience with this? And again, we kind of work together to try to make like Lafayette, or Indiana as a whole, but Lafayette a destination for people to come and enjoy local beer and craft beer. And, we've got, there's 9 breweries, within the, right in the greater Lafayette area. And then you've got one in Crawfordsville and one in Copacetic up in Monticello. It's like, so there's some opportunity there for us to work together and build something larger than just our individual breweries. And we're not the type of people that like to look at each other as enemies or competitors, as much as we'd rather sit down and have a beer and talk about how we can make it all better. So that's how we do it, both at this level and the state level, and across the country. I mean, yeah. I have friends that have breweries in all kinds of states, all the way out in my best friend has a brewery in Southern Washington, Everybody's Brewing Company, and we're on the horn talking about stuff all the time. So it's definitely an industry of like-minded people that just want to continue to make better products. So
all right, I gotta ask you, I've met so many people in town that either have worked for you or work there currently. You've constantly been saying like and there's a bunch of stuff going on. I mean, do you know how many employees you have? And like basically it seems like you just help the community. I see people going through and learning and then starting their own stuff. So can you tell me, like, when you say who are you talking about specifically, or tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at our company as a team. I couldn't do this without all the other people on our team. And, so that's where the we comes in. And, once you're an employee of People's Brewing Company, you're always a people's employee. I've got employees that come into town and we go to the Purdue games, and, we've got brewers that have opened breweries in the area. Copacetic, Sean, he brewed for us really early on, and we just went up there for his 5th anniversary, and I just told the staff, I'm like, hey, I'm driving up on Saturday. Who wants to go with me? And then there were a couple of people that were at the bar that were like, I'll go, and so I filled a car and we drove up there. But we've got a brewer that's brewing beer in Istanbul, Turkey, and these people are still a part of our family. We have one of our first lab tech, the gal that helped build our lab, works for Melvin Brewing out in Idaho, or Wyoming, sorry. But those people are all still a part of the family. And when they come back to town, they come here, and it's like they're heading over to their uncles, I guess. They come by and we have some beers and eat some food and have a good time and tell stories, and lots of stories about when they were here and stuff that we did. But yeah, I mean, when, our company and our brewery, it's a team, and, like I said, I can't do it without the people on my team. And so it's always an effort that is from the team. And that's why we always say it's all of us making it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So people who were with you from the start, did you have like a small team and then it grew into, how did you start?
When we started, I had a friend of mine, he's a realtor in town. We kind of had some spare time, and he started just helping us get set up. When we first came in, we gutted this entire building, the old part of the building, and built it back from scratch. I mean, every bit of plumbing and electrical and you name it. And then one day, about 3 months after we started making beer, he said, I didn't really want to make beer. I was helping you get this set up, and here now like cleaning kegs and working. And so he actually came to me with a guy that he had met from Kona Brewing Company and said, hey, you know, I'm going to step out, but this guy will be fantastic. And so then I was still on a staff of 2. And then we just kind of added people as we needed somebody to do something. And, you know, we've got a staff of right around 20 people now. And that's, you know, everywhere from bartenders and cooks to brewers and cellarmen and sales guys and production managers. And, you know, so it's, we just kind of, you know, figured out what we needed and added some people as we did. And have built a fantastic team of current employees and past. I mean, just fantastic people. We've been really lucky.
Yeah, I mean, lucky kind of, but also very passionate and skilled, right? And going for it. So luck, you know, only goes so far. But definitely there's luck involved with all these businesses. I'll give you that.
I always love the people that walk in and say, I want to work in a brewery and I'll do anything. those are people that we're like, okay, like, you know, then you go through the little bit of a weed out process. Like, you know, what will you do? You know, not like hazing, but, you know, it's like, do you really know what we do? I mean, 90% of the time we're cleaning something, you know, it's like,
yeah.
You know, do you want to brew beer or do you want to, you know, clean and make environments best for beer? That's kind of, there's 2 different things there. So, but yeah, we've had good, passionate people that have come in and learn and worked with us. And, you know, nobody is forever, but they, you know, the great people have come and gone and come back around still. So.
Yeah. And you got to find something to clean the vats of beer, right? That's,
yeah.
Right.
Do you have to climb into those, right? Like
most of what we do is cleaning. We don't very often have to climb in a tank.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be real careful when you do, and you know, lockout, tagouts, and stuff. Confined space, you know, but it's very rare that we actually go in a vessel. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's I didn't do it, but my dad was like trying to get me to do a job when I was trying to find like an internship or a summer job as a kid, and he was like, "Yeah, you can just go clean beer vats," and it sounded awful. So I was like, "I'll pass." Right? I don't think I'd had a beer yet when he was asking me to do that, but yeah. So so going back to the team that you seem to have, so what would you, I guess, say for somebody who's trying to build a team? Because I know a lot of people out there and who are makers really struggle sometimes, and I know everybody has with trying to like do their passion and make the stuff that they're making, but then also be able to build a team like you have.
It's really difficult thing to do, to step back and let somebody else do something that you're so passionate about. And I struggled with this a lot early on, and kind of developed a program, if you will, of like working with someone and training them at the same time, building that comfort. You know, it's like, I have a lot of sayings and around, but you know, it's like there's kind of this. I'm always joking, like, well, no, I don't trust you yet. You know, like it's like,
yeah.
You know, it's just like I have to get comfortable that you know what you're doing, and I want you to be comfortable that you know what you're doing. You know, and like that was the key for me, was understanding when you could see that confidence in somebody that was taking over a task that was so personal to me. And, you know, that's when I started to be able to let go a little bit and understand that they had as much passion about it, and that I'd given them all the tools and, you know, that they could do it on their own. And you know, and I always try to keep myself as a resource too. So, like I said, a lot of times I'm troubleshooting a procedure, you know, and sometimes it's just like, we've done this 100 times, but for whatever reason today we're going to do this and this. And it's like, how should we transition from this process to that process. And at this point, after so many years, I've seen a lot of scenarios. So, it lends me to be able to help troubleshoot things. So, I mean, just last week we did some. We're just releasing this week a coffee porter, and we did the cold brew in house. We worked with Copper Moon Coffee, and we did this cold brew in house, and we needed to pasteurize this cold brew before we could add it to the beer. And so we're basically looking at a bunch of different piles of equipment and trying to figure out how to build a pasteurizer. And we pulled a few things in and figured it out, and we were able to hold the temperature we needed for the time we needed to hold it. And that stuff's always fun for me, and I think it's fun for the guys that are doing it with me, and trying to figure out how to troubleshoot this thing and make the puzzle pieces that we have do a different process. So
yeah, problem solving and troubleshooting is always fun.
Yeah.
You just said that you have all these different phrases. I need to hear some of them, please. Please, can you just hit us with some of the phrases that you say all the time?
So one of my favorites is when we're sitting around at the end of the day and everybody's drinking a beer. I like to say, well, at least we don't make ketchup. It wouldn't be nearly as fun to sit around at the end of the day and drink a bottle of ketchup.
No, definitely not.
I also say that when we've been canning Boiler Gold for 7 days straight, and everybody's tired of seeing gold 6-packs come out of the canner, I'll say that same phrase, So, and then the less PC one is once we get a plan together and we've kind of got everything, I just say, don't F it up. That's my other line, everything will be fine if you don't F it up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that's good in general, right? But no, you're right. You have the plan, you can stick to it, you have the skills, go.
Again, right, these guys, if my staff was around, they'd probably have a laundry list of things I say all the time. But.
All right, so we're going to need to interview your staff next week. Right?
Right. I'm not sure if I'd okay
that one. No, thank you so much for being on here. We're right around time, and I want to be respectful of your time. You got to get up in the morning and get into brewing, I guess, right?
Yeah. 9 a.m. production meeting.
Yeah. I also want people to know where to find you, right? So we've been putting up your website, but is there anywhere else that do you tend to use the social media more than others, or is there some place that they can go to find out more?
Yeah, we're peoplesbrew.com, but we're People's Brew everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram, we keep a Twitter going, but Facebook and Instagram are our main social medias. And then our website. But like I said, it's People's Brew on all the formats. And we're regularly posting about different things that are going on in the brewery, in the tap room. Around town, so there's we've always trying to put something interesting up and let people know what we're up to. So
and to find those events you talked about, those are all on your social media and your website as well.
Yeah, I mean the best place to find our events that we have going on is probably Facebook.
Okay.
We post about them all the time, but if you go to the events tab on Facebook, we've got a lot of stuff there. If you're interested in the music side of things, there is a People's Live tab on our website, and you can buy tickets right there from the tab. You can see all the upcoming shows, and we've got our current food menu is on the website. All of our current beers are on there. There's a live or a beer menu on there that has got our live action, what's on in the tap room. So it's always up to date, and you can see what's available for growlers and all that fun stuff, and 6-packs and cases and things. So we try to put a lot of pertinent information on the website, and then some fun and goofy stuff on the social media. You can find me knocking over a pile of boxes or playing a guitar or whatever crazy things we come up with on there. But yeah, the People's Brew everywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna have to take a trip down. I need to talk to Kofi about this, but I was just talking to some of the other makers, and I mentioned it to you too. We have some people here that hang out, and we want to probably take a. We need to take a field. We need to take a science experiment making field trip.
Making.
We're gonna go mainly to the
trip.
tap room, but we do definitely. We'd love to see the space itself, but yeah. That's definitely going to be. That's on my list of things to organize, like this month or next.
Yeah, we'd be happy to show you around, give you a tour. Up until the pandemic, we do tours every Saturday. We need to start that up again, I suppose. But we if somebody wanted to do a tour of the brewery, all they'd have to do is reach out to us at info@peoplesbrew.com, and we could schedule that. We've been doing them scheduled since the pandemic, but yeah, we love to get people into the brewery again. There's that educational component. We want people to understand that not all beer comes from the Rockies, and you get to see the process and hands on. We always say there's no better place to sell beer than in the brewery. You get a beer in your hand and you're like, my beer came from that tank over there. It's just like it's like seeing the cook make the food, and you're just like, it's just great. So, but yeah, we love to teach people about beer, and I can talk about beer all night long. That hour went super fast.
Yeah, it did, but it was. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
I learned a lot, and I really do appreciate you coming on. Kofi, you got anything else before we get going?
No, I think I'm good for now.
All right, cool. Well, Chris, thank you. Kofi, if you want to go ahead and go, then I'll close this out.
All right. Well, Patrick Kofi Austin, Mojo Up streamer. You can find me on LinkedIn at Patrick /Patrick Kofi Austin, and we'll see you guys in another week or two. James.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for coming to Maker Monday. And I just want to mention that I am down here in Lafayette, Indiana's downtown. We're Matchbox Makerspace, and we do really appreciate the people who are watching this, and all the people that are the members and everybody else around town that comes in and supports our Makerspace. If you have any questions, or you want to come down and see it, or you want to be a member, just reach out. I'm just James at mbx.studio, or you can go to our Makerspace webpage, which is mbx maker.space. Yeah, man, I need to practice that one. It's new. It's mbxmaker.space. And yeah, we can answer any questions for you or anything. And otherwise, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot for watching.